What's going on there, guys? Good afternoon. Good morning to some out there. It is the Earthmaster on this April 1st, 2022 date, about 10:55 a.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 3.0 earthquake into the region of South America. Still trying to fight through this cold here, so hopefully we'll make it. Today is definitely April 1st, April Fool's Day, man. Opening up social media apps can verify that. Seen a report from SolarHam of an X20 flare. I seen that this morning. Thought, wow, what is going on with the sun? An X20. Comes to find out, it is April 1st. Many other jokes being played out there for sure across the across this lovely platform on social media. But no jokes here on this channel. Try not to get into that, at least as far as the serious ones go. You know, an X20 flare, that'd be kind of crazy. All right, West Coast, what do we got going on out there? This is a pretty active map here for the 2.5 and above. Some movement kicking off, of course, yesterday off the coast of Oregon, along the Port Orford, Oregon area, way out in the Gorda Ridges, in this little ridge area. Kind of a lot of pressure built up there. Over time, of course, the Cascadia subduction zone there sits over to the east, just a few miles. Enormous amount of tremor continues in the region of the pretty much the entire Cascadia subduction zone. But looking at the activity here, we're seeing some kicking up this morning. A 3.2 near Willow Creek, California, just east of Eureka, 23 kilometers. So that's a subduction zone quake here into the southern end of the Cascadia. Some further movement. Looks like a little shaking going on down here in the Cobb Mountain region at 2.7. Of course, this area always sees quite a bit of activity there in the microquake department with the hydrothermal operations ongoing. Some movement throughout central California, south of Sacramento as well, along the San Andreas Fault. Just off here, we're seeing a little bit of movement in the mountain ranges right here. What is that, Gabilan Range. All right, never actually heard of this area. Of course, I don't get down here too much. I know where Hollister is, but just to the west of the San Andreas Fault Zone is where this activity is kind of kicking up here. It had a 3.3 and some 2s as well above the 2.5 threshold. Let's go ahead and bring up the all magnitudes here. Take a look at the movement throughout the rest of the state. Doesn't add a whole lot to the Northern California region. One earthquake up here in the Anderson, California region, 13 kilometers deep for a 1.9. Further down south here, Long Valley supervolcano in this area of the Round Valley zone. Still seeing some microquakes following that 3.9 that kicked up here a couple days ago. Long Valley itself, supervolcano, just some activity outside the caldera rim, just to the west of Lake Crowley area. Further down south into the Ridgecrest and across the Garlock Fault Zone. Looks like the Willer Ridge getting some activity over here. It looks like just south of the Bakersfield region, near the Grapevine. A couple low-grade 1 and 2 earthquakes there. A little bit of swarming kicking up here in the Imperial Fault. This is south of Brawley in the Southern California area, north of the border. Seeing about 12 earthquakes. Well, let's zoom in here. About 10 earthquakes or so in this area, including a 3.0. Of course, swarms down here do pop up from time to time, especially around the Salton Sea and the Brawley seismic zone. But this one's directly on the Imperial Fault. So might have to watch that here for some further movement. That area does see some rather large quakes. Of course, highly populated regions. Sits just to the west and northwest of here. Some activity off the coast of Long Beach as well. A little microquake, 1.9. Off the coast of Malibu, 5.6 kilometers. Some Home Gardens, California, 12.0 on the kilometer depth for a 1.4 magnitude earthquake. There's some deep movement down here. Southern California does see some rather deep activity, and it's been that way for the past couple months. Into the Nevada area, still seeing movement right around the Mina area, the Candelaria Hills that sits right up here. Just across this road here, just came through here a week or so ago on my way back from Texas. Nothing major, just starting to fill in the some earthquakes here. Of course, a couple years ago, 2019, they did have that 6-pointer out here. I think that 6.5 5, if I remember right. So aftershock sequences continue for years. Same as down here in the Ridgecrest area, right? I had that sequence of earthquakes on July 4th, July 5th. So that activity continues to this date. Let's see what else we got here across the states. Not Pacific Northwest is still very quiet. I'm really surprised they're not reporting anything. Yellowstone National Park, a little bit of movement. It looks looks like around Hebgen Lake area, West Yellowstone region. Let's go ahead and check out the latest overview here on the Yellowstone seismographs here. And we're still seeing some earthquake activity. It looks like earlier this morning around the northwest corner of the park. Those are some very distinct earthquakes. I think that's kind of what we're seeing right here, right? Let's look at this timestamp. We had a 2.2, 10:38 UTC time. Let's see, 10:38 UTC time would be right about here. So that's going to be that 2.0, followed up by a little bit shallower one. Of course, that's going to be the 0.7. See that? These times match up with the timestamp up here, UTC time. So that's 2.0 and a 1.7 or a 0.7 magnitude earthquake there around the western side of the Yellowstone National Park. There's some other quakes in here as well, some smaller ones. So obviously a little bit smaller than the 0.7 in the region, but yeah, still kind of active here. Nothing, no major swarm going on currently here at Yellowstone, but we're still seeing some earthquake movement, which is still very typical, right, in this area of the states. Outside of there, let's see, so a little bit of movement through Idaho and Montana. Nothing really to write home to grandma about. Oklahoma, just outside of OKC, Mustang region, Union City actually, 1.5 and a 2.0. These depths here are likely related to gas and oil wells, and it looks like that is the case out there. Quite a bit of these perfectly aligned squares. Of course, this here kind of looks like somebody's house, but there is definitely a lot of oil and pumping operations here within the vicinity. I'm talking up to probably a couple hundred feet, up to 5,000 feet in the region. Backing out of here, the eastern part of the country looks pretty clear, right? One little earthquake way up here around the Vermont region of 2.1 near Maidstone, Vermont, 6.3 kilometers. What do we got going on around the world? Still some activity kicking up here in the New Caledonia area, around the Loyalty Islands, south of Vanuatu, Port Vila area. Looks like it's calming down a little bit though. Haven't really seen too much movement today. We did have a 5.5 earlier at 13:05 UTC time, so that puts it about 6 hours ago or so for that movement. Make sure everything's working. Last night when I was doing an update here, the first update, everything froze up. I don't know when it froze up, but I had some issues here with my broadcasting software, so I updated stuff, and it seemed to work fine. And then the stream automatically went down last night at about 4:30 my time here without me knowing. I mean, everything was running fine. No buffering, nothing like that. Stream just got pulled. The plug got pulled on the channel once again around 4 a.m. And I don't get it. I mean, it seems as though every time I start saying something about the lack of reporting, I get shut down. It's really weird. So I'm going to try to keep that to minimal. I'm just going to say, look, nothing being reported, folks. And that's it. Not going to be blaming anybody, but all right, moving on. So yeah, back over here to the Papua New Guinea region, Philippines, up through the Java Trench. Still showing some activity here into the middle America, or the middle part of the Java Trench, 5.3. This one about 20 kilometers so in there. And some further activity here into the Philippine Trench as well, 5.0 and 4.9 it looks like in that region. The Big Island, Hawaii, all magnitudes map here, showing kind of calm conditions. Nothing spectacular on the island right now, except for, I'm sure, the beautiful scenery this time of year. I think it's all year, right? All year they got beautiful scenery out there. I'd love to visit Hawaii one of these days. It's just populated, large mass of population out there is what I really can't stand. You know, you go out on the beach, you're surrounded by a couple hundred people. It's just not what I call a vacation. But then again, that's just me. I kind of like my solitude and my peace of mind, so to speak. You know, solitude sometimes is priceless. Mauna Kea up here, we had an earthquake north of there. This one's pretty deep. We do see typical deep movement up here along the Big Island and along the this area of the Pacific Plate. That does happen quite often. Don't believe it's associated anything to do with Mauna Kea at the moment. 31.5 kilometers for a 2.6. Southeast region still pretty active there along the Big Island. Let's see what we got here. The Alaska area. Looks like a typical day in Alaska as well. It's beautiful countryside up there as well. A little bit less populated regions for sure. I visited this area here a couple years ago in the wintertime. Yeah, it was cold, but you know what? It was pretty nice up there. Went through Anchorage, Fairbanks area. Seen a lot of neat sights through the region. And quite a bit of wildlife up there as well. It's kind of where I'd like to... I don't know. They don't get enough tornadoes or thunderstorms up there for me, so I got to be somewhere where it's pretty active. But earthquake activity, still continuing. Nothing major going on throughout the region up there. Puerto Rico area, a little bit of activity lighting up here with a 2.3 within the last hour. Most of it here confined to the southwest edge of Puerto Rico. One little earthquake up here north of the region. But man, what do we got down here? South Sandwich Islands. That was from late last night, 5.0. Middle America, or the Middle East. What do we got here in Turkey? A 4.2 and a 4.3 a little bit further to the east here. But man, what do we got? It's just not anything major going on today, right? Of course, solar weather activity kind of kicked up. Let's go ahead and check out the solar weather department overnight. Let's see here. Seeing things kind of kick back up again on the KP index here. Looks like a little bit of elevated to a 4 level overnight. We're since kind of dying down. Looks like let's see what these guys are reading here. Solar activity during the past 24 hours was technically at moderate levels. AR 2975 produced a moderately strong 9.6 solar flare, an M 9.6. That was yesterday. The event did produce a coronal mass ejection. However, Earth-facing LASCO imagery is still not up to date to confirm any possible Earth-directed component. So we'll wait on that. The region, let's see. Here's about the storm, right? The predicted G3 storm, right? That kind of, I don't know. You know, it's just, I keep saying it was a dud. Some people are saying they've seen auroras here in California. I don't see how. I haven't seen any reports of that. Auroras down to California. I don't even think we reached G2 levels. The much anticipated geomagnetic storm failed to reach the predicted strong threshold following a weaker than expected CME passage. However, nice displays of aurora were still reported across main locations at higher latitudes. So yeah, just kind of a bummer. I was kind of looking forward to that pretty large event. But it missed us. It didn't smack us head on, but it missed us. It just gave us a little glancing blow. Maybe that's kind of things, a sign of things to come, so to speak. Here, we're still looking at potential for flaring kicking up here. These guys are reporting almost 100% chance of C flare. Of course, we are currently crackling with C flare events right now, and the C flare threshold. M flare at 75%. I think that's a pretty good likelihood. And X flare elevated to 30% chance. Protons at 50. So this is all still basically from the active region. Going to be 2975, which is kind of going to be currently facing away from us here pretty soon. But even if we had a pretty strong X flare, it's possible that could be somewhat, well, of course, it's going to be somewhat directed from the flare itself. But CME, highly unlikely that would hit us if that did throw one off. Some other sunspots back here building up. But we'll see what this thing does. It's been a pretty active sunspot region. Still see it here, 2975. And this one here is pretty stable. This one here is the complex system with the possibility of producing a 30% chance of an X flare. Maybe 2981 down here looking a little active as well. And some further developing sunspots we'll have to keep an eye on as the weekend rolls on. Let's see what else we got. Tremor map, of course, from last night. Another active day in Tremor, 538 epicenters of Tremor. This almost makes about 8,000 tremors within the last 2 weeks. Tallied up the number since about the 1st of March to the 31st of March. We had almost 10,000 epicenters of Tremor. So most of that, the 8,000, were just from within the last 2 weeks. So a lot going on here along the Cascadia. A lot of what ifs, what's going on. I try to look at trends, and I like this chart up here. I'm glad they have this little chart, and these are hopefully the ones that are all being reported, right? Hopefully. I kind of look at these trends here. It looks like these lines of separation here, these little quiet periods compared to the lines indicating a lot of tremor. There's a lot of tremor in these lines when they spike up like that. And those lines right here, these little separation of lines from these events, are getting shorter and shorter in the time period compared to years past. What that means, I don't know, but I do notice it. I notice within the past couple years here, we've seen a dramatically increase in tremor across the board. Yes, we do have quiet spells, but then, man, look at this. They really kick up pretty significantly. So it's something to take note of, something to watch. We don't know exactly when the Cascadia is going to go. I just kind of look at trends and see, hey, look at this. It's getting more active. Does this mean we're releasing pressure, or are we actually building pressure, right? Because if you think about it, down dip here of the Cascadia, let's see if I can pull this up here. See if I can pull up a cutout image real quick. Excuse me. Hopefully my voice can make it. Here's a little image. If you can see here, showing the slip. Sometimes this Cascadia gets some deep earthquakes here. It's been 1949, 1965, 2001. I got 6s or 7s popping up down there, right around the area where the tremor activity does take place. So these little purple, I think they're purple on my end, or pink, look purple. So we do get some buildup, and we do get these deep earthquakes on occasion. We also get these crustal earthquakes that pop up here around Washington, Oregon area. And of course the Cascadia subduction zone megaquake will happen up here in the locked area. That's this red line from right about where it subducts, right down a little ways. And that's the area that's building up pressure. So these arrows here kind of point a telltale sign of general plate subduction down, if you will, down further underneath the North American continent. And that's where the tremor activity is kind of happening here within this region. So as we're getting all this tremor, which is slow slip movement, basically a little bit unlike earthquake activity. Well, it's not like earthquake activity. It doesn't release a sudden amount of energy. It slowly slips past each other. And when there's a large amount, can't help but wonder, right, with this plate here continuing to go down and down, do you think this here is just slipping? Or do you think this is building up pressure here along the locked area? I see it as building up pressure. So the more tremor activity that we have down dip, the more stress likely here on the locked area, which makes it a bigger potential for a large earthquake to happen when we're seeing these tremor events. Man, I'm surprised my voice has held up this long. So, but it's something to keep an eye on pretty closely with these large tremor events for sure. I don't think just because we're having tremor down here that it's slipping here as well. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing earthquake activity or any type of tremor along the locked area. This is where it builds up, kind of like a spring. We get elevated lift here, and that's obvious on the GPS stations across the western portions of Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. It's obvious. We're not seeing a down dip of the vertical displacement. We're seeing an upward trend. So that tells us right there that this is continuing to build, is continuing to wind up like a spring, and one of these days, pretty soon, I think, this thing's going to pop. And that's when the big one happens out there, 9.0 or greater. There's still always the possibility of just seeing a southern end rupture, partial rupture of the Cascadia, which would, between an 8.0 and 8.5 magnitude earthquake. So even then, that would be pretty large here. There's no doubt I would definitely be shaken here where I live here in Northern California. And I even think an 8-pointer would produce a tsunami out here. But not as devastating as a full rupture go. But it's something to keep note of, folks. That's why I watch this tremor activity all the time. I keep an eye on it and look at these trends. And I think we all should. What else we got? The Canadian region. A little bit of activity over here in the east today. There's that Vermont earthquake in the red circle. A little bit of movement, looks like in the purple circle as well. Quebec area, a .9. Nothing major going on at all, folks, across the board here in Canada. Things pretty mellow. So, all right, we're gonna jump off here. Stream is back up and running. Gonna try and keep it that way. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Right? Did a little bit more updating since the incident last night, since it went down. And we'll see how things play out. I still think someone just likes to play games and pull strings and shut the computer and live stream down. I seriously think that. But I can't prove it at the moment. I just can't prove it. So we'll continue to go with the punches and get back up with all the black eyes and go from there. Hope everyone has a good day. It is Friday, right? Woohoo! Party day. Well, not really. Not for me. Just going to hang out, maybe do some garden work and enjoy the sunshine. We got 80s, low 80s predicted today and, of course, throughout the weekend. Perfect time for barbecuing. And maybe have a couple adult beverages and just sit back and enjoy the scenery, right? That's about all we can do at the moment. Have a good day, folks. We'll chat to you later on this evening. Think we'll do a question and answer since we skipped it last week out in Texas, coming back from Texas. But tonight we'll do a question and answer show here with Missy Mimi's. Look for that probably around 7:30 time frame. Have a good night, folks, or a good day. We'll chat to you later tonight. Peace out.